So I thought I'd give you all a tour of my vegetable gardens. Now, the garden I'm sitting in right now is on its second season. I've only been on this property a little under 2 years, and the only thing that was here when I came was a grapevine that's, gosh, it must be close to 50 years old. Um, it's gnarled and rotting and barely there, but it's kind of hanging on. I've been working on pruning it, trying to revitalize it. But everything else has been here less than 2 years. So I'm going to start with the garden I'm in right now. It is also the garden I grow my winter crops. Start with these bachelor buttons. The bees just love them. It's early evening and they're still just swarming all over. I would have grown them for this alone, but they also make a really great cut flower. I've let them go a little bit because honestly, the bees are enjoying them so much that I haven't cut them back like I really should for cut flower production. I've kind of been obsessed with celery this year. This is the tender crisp variety. You can see it's doing pretty good. It doesn't have huge ribs like the kind in the grocery store, but they're decent size and it has good flavor. I've also been pretty obsessed with onions. These are green onions. They come from those little sets, the little bulb looking things that you can buy in early spring. So if you're looking for nice big onions, you don't want to get the sets. They really only make green onions because they think they're going into their second year and they're trying to get ready to produce seeds. It has been the year of the pea. These are they're pretty neat. They have a blue pod. They're still green peas inside. They have an okay flavor. They aren't as sweet as some of the other varieties like Lincoln, but they're not bad. And as you can see, they've really been producing. I had seen a YouTube video where someone else planted peas with their garlic to try to get really big bulbs. I haven't seen any difference between my garlic back here and my garlic that I just harvested in the front, which was not grown with peas. So doesn't seem to have done too much, but it hasn't hurt them either. That's kale. It was winter sown, and I will talk about winter sowing in another video, but it's a great way to start seeds if you don't have a lot of indoor space or you're just really bad at keeping seedlings alive in the house. I started ginger from a grocery store rhizome. Just bought it right in the produce aisle, and it took a little while, but I've got a couple of different ginger. This is one of them. It's not doing as well as the other one. And this is a yellow long neck fig. I bought 3 figs from Baker Creek. Once again, they're those little tissue culture plants, and they're not doing bad. This is about done, I think. Purple sprouting broccoli from the winter. And it's kind of hanging on. Cabbage worms are doing a number on it. Finally getting a little bit of size to some of my eggplants. And then I've got more celery because, like I said, for whatever reason, I just wanted to grow all the celery in all the world. Red Russian kale. If you don't like kale, you have got to try one of the red kales. They're amazing. So I've got red Russian and scarlet, and they're both really good. We put them in all kinds of stuffs. We use them in salads. We use them in sandwiches instead of lettuce. This is my one from the winter, and it's still doing okay. Getting ready to bolt, but only one of them has gotten to the point of actually setting seed yet. And more celery. This is a really cool Chinese celery from Baker Creek, and it's got those neat pink stems. Just kind of put that in for fun. This bed is one of my winter beds, so it's got the hoops over it so I can cover it with remade cloth, Ag 19, and grow in it all winter long. So sometimes if you get something you really like and you don't know the exact brand, you can save seeds. That's what we're doing with these onions. We love them so much. They have such a great flavor that we actually kept a couple of them back and are trying to have them set seed. It's my ginger that I got all the little rhizomes off of. And a slow moving sweet potato. It's finally putting up slips. I actually think I've bought all the sweet potato slips I need now, but I'll just let them keep growing anyway. An overabundance of tomatoes. And this is something here. These are both supposed to be mini bell tomatoes, but they look nothing alike. So I'm not sure what's going on with the one on the right. The one on the left is how they should look. So in the early spring, a local grocery store that just opened called Liddell had some different season extension items, and one of them was this cute little greenhouse. I put some Monica cucumbers. They're a variety that do not need pollinators. So I'll have some cucumbers that are safe, hopefully from cucumber beetle. And then I put these cauliflower in hopes again that they be safe. As you can see, something's been devouring the leaves a little bit, but it's definitely in better shape than some of my other broccolis and cabbages and things. So I think it's been somewhat of a success. Everything you see here was winter sown. It is definitely a very successful method of planting for a lot of varieties. So I've got a whole lot of chard and some marigolds, some very nice onions. They should really bob up nice and big. And lettuce that's starting to bolt because it is the first day of summer. And a mysterious volunteer squash. Got some different cabbages right behind that. And in that bucket is an experiment I'll open one day. It's a sheep fleece that has been left to ferment to clean it. I didn't think I'd end up with any crookneck squash. I had a failure with their winter sowing, and then it didn't look like these guys would form either, but they did. I've got some huge plants and a ton of little squashes coming on. In fact, they've gotten so big that they're about to eat my dahlias, and I'm going to have to move them. These are more of the mini bell tomatoes. They're kind of a patio tomato that gets a little bit bigger than a cherry. And then this is my self-watering container. I've had this same container for about 8 or 10 years. It held a blueberry for many years, and then I finally planted it in the ground. Last year it had peppers, and this year it's got fennel. They're pretty cool, and I'll do a video about them someday. So this is my main garden, and it did take a while to get it in, which is why it didn't get started till this year. I have a 4-foot fence around it. It's not going to keep out a determined deer. So I will be putting poles at the corners, and I don't know if I'm going to put electrical fence or something else, but we'll make it a little higher. So this was the first bed I started in this garden. Back in February, I put down tarps, killed all the grass, brought in some compost and laid it, and then put in the landscape fabric. And it's doing pretty well. You can see my parsley is downright monstrous. We've got plenty of beautiful big sunflowers. And I've got my artichokes. Well, this is my first year growing artichokes, and I'm pretty sure they're getting ready to be harvested. I'll have to look it up and find out. The other thing that's doing really amazing are these little 8-ball zucchinis. I cannot keep up with them. They are so prolific and they taste delicious. I highly recommend them. More sunflowers. And I have a few little lemon cucumbers. And then I have some friends who just decided to volunteer. And I let them grow because every year we do a program at the library called Pumpkin Fest. And it looks like they're going to be little pumpkin-like gourds. So I've got 1, 2, 3 of them. And they're sending a ton of these adorable little pumpkin-y looking things. So I think that'll be a lot of fun for some of the activities we do at Pumpkin Fest. But you can see, I mean, they are vigorous. A little less vigorous, cucamelon. There are these absolutely adorable little cucumbery things that look like teeny tiny watermelons. I had to reseed them several times, but they're finally starting to grow. Now, this is my tomato row, and I am doing the basket weed method to hold them up, and I'm honestly not very pleased with it. I mean, they're off the ground, but that's about all you can say for them. It's floppy, disorganized. I think next year I'll go back to putting wire between stakes and attaching them to the wire. I've put in several other varieties of zucchini. This was the last one to go in, and it's really not quite taking off yet. It's a really neat Italian variety of squash. And this is another tissue culture plant. I talked about them in another video. This is a dwarf mulberry tree from Baker Creek. So they're tiny, the tissue culture plants, but they're very reasonably priced and they're seeming to grow well. So I'm pretty happy with them, and I'll probably get some more. This is one of my favorite things about my garden this year. I was able to dig up one of my dahlia tubers last fall, right after the frost, and I was able to save it successfully all winter, replant it after the soil warmed in the spring, and here it is again. Isn't it lovely? I've got some dragon tongue beans, and then I've got something else I'm very excited about. Perennial kale. This was grown from the Kaleidoscope kale mix. So I'm going to let them all mature, and then I'll pick the nicest ones to keep permanently as perennial kale, and hopefully be able to take cuttings off of them if they don't go to seed. Here are the onions I was talking about. When you grow onions from seed, or you get those little onion bunches that are usually found by your lettuces and all in the early spring at the store. You get onions that start bobbing up pretty big like this. So put quite a lot of onions in, and I use something called a stand-in plant, which I will talk about at another time. The light's getting a little low, so I think it's time to wrap up the tour. I'll be doing another tour every month to show the progress of the garden.